This Friday, a new exhibition opens, showcasing memorabilia from some of the UK's most notorious criminal investigations. For nearly a century and a half, the Met Police's Museum of Crime has been buried deep in the bowels of Scotland Yard. Now some of the collection's most gruesome artefacts are going on public display for the very first time at the Museum of London. And Nikki Beattie was given an exclusive preview.
Gloves worn by the acid bath murderer, a hidden syringe with poison belonging to the Kray twins, and a bottle of champagne found in the gang's hideout from the Great Train robbery. These are just some of the 600 items that will be on display at the Crime Museum Uncovered at the Museum of London later this week. I've come to the museum in the heart of the capital to meet with Jackie Kiley, one of the exhibit's curators, to learn a little more about what's in store for Londoners.
The Museum of London was approached by the Metropolitan Police and the Mayor's Office for Policing and Crime with a view to collaborating on working on an exhibition to display some of this material for the first time. In part, I think, because Scotland Yard is moving from the 1960s building. They're moving to a new building, and it seemed like a good opportunity to look into putting some of this amazing collection on display for the very first time.
The original Crime Museum was founded in around 1875 by Inspector Percy Neame, and it was housed here at the original Scotland Yard at 4 Whitehall Place. Its intended use was to teach newly trained officers the investigative techniques of the day. In 1890, the museum moved, along with the Metropolitan Police, here to New Scotland Yard, overlooking the mighty Thames. Then in 1967, the museum moved again to the current home of the Metropolitan Police, here at New Scotland Yard in Victoria. But throughout the museum's history, it's remained a place shut off to the public. Enthralled by this macabre collection of crime, the media of the day had soon labelled it the Black Museum.
This is Orson Welles, speaking from London. The Black Museum, the repository of death. Yes, here in the grim stone structure on the Thames, which houses Scotland Yard, is a warehouse of homicide, where everyday objects, a skillet, a screwdriver, a photograph, all are touched by murder.
This footage is from one of the rare occasions that cameras were allowed to film inside the Crime Museum, which over its 100 years has attracted an eclectic mix of visitors, including King George V, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and somewhat incongruously, comedy duo Laurel and Hardy. Back at the Museum of London, Jackie invited me on a behind-the-scenes tour of the exhibition to talk a little bit more about some of the cases. So these are the actual nooses, the ropes that have hung criminals?
Yes, these are 6 nooses, which we know the names of the actual criminals that were hanged with them.
In total, the exhibition will explore over 120 different criminal investigations, including this look at the Sydney Street siege.
The siege of Sydney Street starts in 1910, in December 1910, when a group of Latvian revolutionaries attempt a robbery in Houndsditch, and the City of London Police are tipped off to it, and they call around to the house. The revolutionaries get away, but they shoot 5 police officers. Now, about 2 weeks later, the police receive another tip-off saying that some of the gang are holed up in a house on Sydney Street. So they surrounded both Metropolitan Police officers and City of London Police officers. But it's very clear early on that the revolutionaries actually have better firearms than the police do. So they call in the Scots Guards, who were stationed nearby. There's a fierce firefight, and fire breaks out in the building, and eventually the siege comes to an end.
And didn't Churchill end up arriving at the scene?
Absolutely. Quite controversially in a way, as a politician, he turns up in what was a very, very dangerous, violent situation.
In addition to criminal investigations, the exhibit will also highlight a number of investigative techniques used by the Metropolitan Police. The case of the Stratton brothers, for instance, was the first time ever that criminals were convicted for murder in Great Britain based on fingerprint evidence. At the conclusion of their trial, Albert and Alfred Stratton were sentenced to death by hanging and were executed at Wandsworth Prison on May the 23rd, 1905. But before the items go on display, many of them pass through here, the museum's conservation lab. I asked Jackie to tell me a little more about some of the work that's done in the lab.
Our conservation team at the Museum of London look after our collection. That's their primary aim, is the care of the collections. They have packaged all of the objects when they were being transported from New Scotland Yard to the Museum of London.
Which way?
They've also been central to the whole installation of the exhibition, bringing the objects here and installing them in the exhibition itself. Conservation work includes some cleaning of the objects as well, but only where it's really necessary. Obviously, with the nature of the material in this exhibition, we weren't really going to clean items. Many of them are evidence from criminal cases, so we were very much always going to leave them as is. But certain objects, because they were in a more vulnerable state, required consolidation or some very light cleaning of the surface.
Whilst many of the criminal investigations on display are those that occurred many decades ago, there are a select few cases from more recent events, like this charred laptop recovered after the Glasgow airport terror attack in 2007. Despite its state, police were able to recover 96% of the data on the computer's hard drive, information invaluable to investigators. The current curator of the Metropolitan Crime Museum is Paul Bickley. I visited him in New Scotland Yard to ask him about his own thoughts on the upcoming public exhibition. What will this exhibition mean for Londoners?
This is a fantastic opportunity for Londoners to see the great work of the Met Police, to see inside what's become a mysterious crime museum. Investigations, the exhibits, in the most iconic cases from the last 150 years.
You were involved in one of the exhibits there, the Millennium Dome diamond heist.
It was November 2000. I remember the date quite clearly because I'd only been on the flying squad a couple of days. 2 o'clock in the morning, a briefing, hundreds of officers there from the firearms department, surveillance, the flying squad. Each had their role to play, each had to be carefully briefed. They got into very secret locations so that we were in position before the robbers actually came onto the plot. The press dubbed them as bungling idiots. But the truth is, they'd been planning the operation for many months. They'd even worked out that this special glass, this armoured glass that would take 30 minutes to break through, they got through in 30 seconds. And that's not bungling idiots. They had speedboats lined up as a getaway. They were very professional robbers. And the truth is, they were very good. The problem for them, we were better. Most of the criminals in the museum go out thinking they are cleverer than the police. They don't go out expecting to get caught. They give a lot of thought to their crimes, careful planning. If they're in the museum, it's because they've been caught. On display, you will see the diamond. The diamond that was on display at the time. Had they been successful, this is what they would have stolen. Unfortunately for them, had they been successful, all they were stealing was a fake.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please join our Facebook group. It's called Krays Crime Lords of London. We're a friendly moderated group with over 1,000 Kray and other celebrated gangster videos available for view. There's also thousands of images in the photos sections. The link for the group is in the YouTube description section. I hope we see you there soon.